Hi, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to our first lesson in college prep math. Our first unit is a linear unit. Our first lesson is going to be solving equations. Our essential question is, what is the three different types of solutions for a basic equation and how do you tell them apart? We are going to start with some vocabulary words. So our first vocabulary word is equivalent equations. And equivalent equations are those equations having exactly the same solution. And an example is 4x plus 1 equals 17 and 2x minus 4 equals 4. Okay? And if you solve each of those for x, you'll get x equals 4 for both of them, and that, because they have the same solution, that makes them an equivalent equation. Our next word is equivalent expression, and that's a string of numbers, variables, mathematical operations, and possibly exponents. An example of that would be 5x minus 20 and 9x minus 2 times 2x plus 10. And if you work out that second one, it'll simplify down to 5x minus 20, so therefore they are equivalent because they're exactly the same. So that's the difference. The primary difference between the two, an equivalent equation and equivalent expression, is an equal sign. Okay, so an equal sign. So on an equation, there's an equal sign. You can see it right here. Equal sign, equal sign. That means I have to solve for x. On an expression, there is no equal sign, so all I have to do is simplify it, and I'm done. I do not have to solve because there's no equal sign. So I hope that helps a little bit with the difference there. Now we're going to do some problems, I guess you would say. Here we go. So it says classify each of the following as either a pair of equivalent equations or a pair of equivalent expressions or neither. So we have to kind of decide if they're an equation or an expression, and then we have to decide if they're equivalent or not. So we have to kind of do two different things, okay? So I'm going to look at here. The first one has what? Equal signs. So that means that this is an equation. So we know that this is an equation. Now we just need to know if it's equivalent or not, because if it's not equivalent, I would have to say it's neither, because the directions say, is it equivalent equations or equivalent expressions? So we have to make sure that it is equivalent. I know that's a lot of equivalence in there. Wow. Okay, so now we're just going to solve for x. So on the first one, I think I'm going to subtract 13, and then I get 7x equals 21. Divide by 7, so x equals 3. Beautiful. And then on the second one, I'm going to divide by negative 17, divide by negative 17, and x equals 3. So these are equivalent equations. Okay, beautiful. And on the second one here, no equal sign, so I know that this is an expression. Now I just need to know if they're equivalent. So 4x minus 9, there's nothing to do for that one. On the second one, here's a like term and here's a like term. So 5x minus x is 4x minus 9. They're exactly the same, so they are equivalent expressions. Not too bad, right? I mean, we do have to check to see if they're equivalent. If they're not equivalent, then I would say that the answer would be neither. Okay, awesome. The last section on this video here says determine whether the two equations in each pair are equivalent. So we're going to just see if they're equal and equivalent. They're equations. Woo, I'm speaking very well today. They're equations, so I have to solve for x, and I want to see if we get the same answer for both sets in each problem. So we're going to go ahead and start with the first one, and I'm going to divide by 3. I don't know why I chose to start with this one, but x equals 4. And then I'm going to go ahead and do the second one. So add 4 to both sides here, and I get 3x equals 12. Divide by 3. X equals 4. Great. So these are equivalent. Okay. So now we're going to go ahead and go to the second set of equations. So let's see, if I subtract 3x from both sides, 3x minus 3x is 0, and then x, so x equals 0. Okay, awesome. So I'm going to give myself some more room on the fraction one. So I've got 3x equals 3 over x equals 4 over x. Whew, that's a mouthful. So I need to find out if it's equal. I could cross multiply and then I get the same equation as the original one, but that doesn't help me because my x is in the denominator. So I would need to do it a different way. Let's just put it that way. So how do I undo a fraction, or how do I get rid of a fraction? Does anyone know? Okay. I know I'm going to pause the video for a second and have you answer that, see if you know that answer. But you multiply by the reciprocal. And the reciprocal is where I take the fraction and I flip it. So the top becomes the bottom and the bottom becomes the top. I know that you guys have heard that before. So I'm going to multiply by x over 3. Multiply by x over 3. So that the left-hand side becomes 3x over 3x, and that equals 4x over 3x. Sorry, I didn't want to change colors there. So what's 3x divided by 3x? Does anyone know? I've got the same thing divided by the same thing, so that equals 1. Okay, and then 4x divided by 3x. Well, my x's make a 1, so they can go away, and I get left with 4 divided by 3. And does 1 equal 4/3? Well, no, it doesn't. So this is not equivalent. Okay, not equivalent. Okay, so you guys are going to do a few problems in the Nearpod to make sure that you know how you're working this, and then we'll come back for the second video. We've got 3 of these, about 8 minutes each, 8-ish minutes each. So we will see you back in just a few minutes. Thanks, guys. Bye.